Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa and Tactical Look. On today's episode, we're going to go in depth on Leeds United. We're going to go to a tactical pad. We're going to take a look at their system. We're going to have a look at their zones of control. We're also going to run through the Leeds United data so far this season. And we're going to take a look at the good and bad versions of Leeds United and how Aston Villa should be able to dominate Leeds United at Ellen Road. And then we'll have a tactical mashup at the end and look at some of the key battles and the key areas. So Villa fans, Leeds fans, get involved in the comment section. Smash this episode a like if you've enjoyed it. Hype it up and also subscribe to the channel. Helps me out massively. So yeah, cheers for all of your support. Right then, let's get straight on in there then. Leeds United system. Let's have a look what it's all about. Generally, it's a 4-3-3. Their main central hub and heartbeat of the team is that midfield three of Longstaff, Stack and Ampadu. You'll find that Aronson likes to come inside and invert. The width will come from Bogle on that right-hand side. Okafor occupies the width but likes to generally get inside these areas, and then Goodmanson will offer the width. We see Calvert-Lewin. He's generally played quite well against Aston Villa. He leads the line really well, what he did for Everton. You know, on that last shoulder when Villa played the high line, can drop deep, can run through the channels, hold up plays good, link up plays good. So, in essence, that's generally the Leeds United system. They do play out from the back, which we'll get into in a second. It can be quite laboured and quite slow, but I think Farke is looking to become a little bit more of a controlled Premier League team. So let's have a look at the zones of control for Leeds United. So if anyone's not new to this graphic, then the purple are the zones that Leeds United are dominant so far in the Premier League. The grey are contested areas where it's either or on a given game. And the pink is where the opposition are dominant against Leeds United. So what it looks like to me is that area right there is the biggest area that you need to win against Leeds United. You can see that Leeds are dominant to the halfway line. The opposition are dominant to the halfway line. Something's got to give. And I imagine whatever team gives, then they get more dominant during a game. The grey areas are contested, so I think they're fine. And then obviously out wide in these pink areas, you know, those areas are pretty dominant from the opposition against Leeds United. So for comparison, we'll show you the Aston Villa version of this. So as you can see, that Villa generally dominate above and beyond the halfway line. The grey are contested, and I'm okay with these for Villa being quite a lot of them, because I think on any given game plan, we know that Unai Emery is very meticulous. So if Emery thinks, for example, that dominating in that area for a game is important, if we can turn that purple, then great. And then you've got these areas where the opposition are having some of the ball against Aston Villa. So I think for comparison and for the note of this episode, the midfield is the area that I think you've got to dominate against this Leeds United side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the good and the bad versions of Leeds United and how you can dominate against Leeds United. So we're going to kick it off with a performance that I thought was very good from Leeds this season when I watched them. I watched all of this game. And this was against West Ham. So what we can see against West Ham is that midfield three, that triangle pivoting and working around Ampadu worked really well. But the biggest things that you can spot are there's networks with 19 and number 11 and Calvert-Lewin. So you've got balls going into Calvert-Lewin. You've got balls going into both wide players and having a network, which is really important. Now, if we take a look at the average positions, it's actually really complete. And I think if Daniel Farke was to look at what he wants from his team to look like every week, this is actually perfect, because you've got great balance with your back four. You've got your midfield three in the triangle, which you would want. You've got width on both sides, and you've got a focal point with your striker. So really good really solid against West Ham. Now, I'm going to show you against Nottingham Forest now, their last game, and Calvert-Lewin didn't play. But what you can see is that the back four has kind of got a decent amount of width. Midfield three looks a little bit flatter. So I imagine they had to spread out and defend for periods of this game. But what you can notice now is that Aronson's got a good network. So a lot of stuff's going into Aronson. Left-hand side player, not so much. Striker, very isolated. So that front three has become very narrow, very isolated, not much going into them. And I imagine that it was hard work at times. Now, I'm now going to show you the Brighton passing network. And this is something that I think Villa will be all over. Dislodging, disrupting that midfield three. And as you can see, the back four's fine. But look at these two players now. They're basically on the same patch. And that shows to me that they were having to do a lot of defensive work. There was a lot of runners running through the lines. It was really unstable in there. And again, look what you can see. Decent on that left-hand side. Not much going into the striker. And then Aronson's got a decent network. But there's nothing from these two players that are going into the striker. So it's important to isolate the striker, stop everything going into the striker, winning that midfield battle. And I think those are the areas where you can start to get a lot of joy. If we now go to the average positions in this game, you can see you've got the two midfielders there. One's come inside, Aronson's central. Everything's very central, very congested. And when you're comparing it to the West Ham one, the best version compared to a version where they've been dislodged, moved around. This is something that I think is the blueprint to being able to get a little bit of success against this Leeds United side. So we're going to run through some data now of Leeds United so far this season. We'll have a look at attacking, defending, etc., pressing, high turnovers. So we'll have a look at these as well. So far this season, Leeds United have scored 10 goals, which is the second lowest, with an XG of 13.07. So they're just under what the XG would suggest. It's a differential of 3.07. They've got a 7.58% conversion rate, and that's the second lowest in the Premier League. They've scored 4 goals from set pieces. They're averaging 48.4% possession. Aston Villa are averaging 54%. Passes, they've made 4,733 passes. 3,897 have become accurate with an 82.3% success rate. For reference, Villa have made 4,799. 4,078 have been accurate with 85% success. Final third passes for Leeds United are at 1,071 with a success rate of 705 with 65.8% being accurate. Villa, final third passes, 1,329. 954 have been successful with 71.8% success. Press sequences, Leeds have had 109, Villa have had 101. High turnovers, Leeds have had 68 with 17 ending in a shot. Villa have had 67 with 11 ending in a shot. 10 plus pass sequences, Leeds have had 114, Villa have had 94. Passes per sequence, Leeds have had 3.46, Villa at 3.52. Crosses, Leeds have had 138 with 26.1% success. Villa, 137 with 16.8% success. Leeds have conceded 20 with 44 shots on target. Villa have conceded 10 with 35% shots on target. Conversion rate against Leeds is at 17.24%, and that's the most in the Premier League. And Villa's is at 7.30, which is the second best in the Premier League. So those are some of the numbers and the data surrounding Leeds United this season. So let's now go and take a look at some actions and series of play, we'll go and have a look at Leeds United and we'll see areas that they get into that he's good, and then we'll also have a look at areas that they get into that he's quite bad. So here we can see Leeds United in build-up, and what we can see is that triangle, that dominant triangle against West Ham. As we move this on slightly, what we're able to see is that the ball now has gone into Ethan Ampadu. Ampadu's got the ball. They've been able to bypass these three players. Aronson's looking like he's getting on the run. We've got Longstaff as well. And then on shot here, you can see their right back, Bogle, who's offering the width. So we've got a two at the back. We've got the left back. And then we've got everybody quite central through there as well. Move it on slightly. We now go into Longstaff. And this goal reminds me of rugby. It's like such a rugby try because it's so basic, but it's also such bad defending from West Ham. Ball then goes into Longstaff, and then Longstaff just knocks it to Aronson, and then Aronson knocks it to Bogle. So we've just gone from like left to right, right. Now Bogle's got the ball. He puts his cross in. And then what you've got to notice is when I mentioned earlier about Aronson getting into those areas, you can see he's outside the box when the cross comes in. And he's the one that actually scores against West Ham in this moment. But there are areas in which you can turn over this Leeds team, and there are a big weakness. And for me, there's a blind spot in this Leeds side. And I'm going to show you the blind spot, and you'll start to see it as we go through these images. So here we've got an area now where it's perfect, really, because the ball's gone out wide. And the area that you really want to get into is this area against Leeds. You want to get in behind Ampadu, and then you're starting to expose the back four or two when it's got into that build-up shape. So those are areas where you can turn this Leeds United side over. But I've spoke about the blind spot, and I really want to highlight this blind spot because it's quite important. This is it. So there's a blind spot in behind when the fullback has gone in and engaged with a progressive player for the opposition team. Now, what I mean by a blind spot is, as you can see, this Leeds player now is going to engage. But what ends up happening is a centre-back doesn't shuffle across, or one of these midfielders don't realise that there's danger in there. So as you can see, if this ball goes into this player here, we could get a little run that can go into that area through there. So it goes out wide, but it shows that there's a weakness and a bit of a fragility when it does go out wide. Now, I can back up this point a little bit more in a second as we move this on. One big criticism that I've seen with Leeds fans is that a build-up is laboured, playing out from the back is slow, it's a bit safe. But also you can see that it's quite risky. And whenever a team plays out from the back, there is an element of risk. Depends whether you're like Villa and you're playing out from your goal line or you're doing this, for example. So keeper passes the ball into a very dangerous area. So the ball's got into a central area, and it's important that the midfielders jump and press and engage very high because you can win the ball back and turn them over. He loses the ball here now. That back two are exposed to a very high level. And as we can see, the ball has been nicked. We've got three Brighton players in behind that Leeds United midfield. But I want to show you this one now and talk about the blind spot slightly. So here we can see that where we looked at the blind spot earlier, it's now going to start to be in that area through there. You can see that there's a bit of a distance and a gap happening between the Leeds United left back and the defenders. We've got two midfielders that are coming in to cover across here, but they actually don't do a good enough job of switching on in that area. So as we can see now, the left back has gone in and engaged. We can see now that there's a little bit of space going to start to appear in behind these two players now that have decided to cover this ground in that area through there. As we move it on slightly, what we can start to see is that, look at the gap now. So there hasn't been a good enough job done in the little blind spot, because now we've got a runner that's going to run in behind there, or we've got a runner that can run in through there. So the numbers game, 1, 2, 3. There's your left back. You've got 3 midfielders here, and this little spot here now is wide open. A little chipped loft ball that goes over the top, which it does, finds number 22 or 27, and they're able to put across a goal. And I think it's Welbeck that scores in this instance. So that little cheeky spot is something that needs to really be exploited. Again, we can see that now a pass is going into a central midfielder, but again, we're going to be jumped on. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to try and win that ball back. They do win it back. It's a loose touch. We're able to jump on this situation through here, win the ball back. The ball then goes to another phase. Be aggressive, win this ball back. They win that ball back with number 6, and then they've turned over and there's a 2v2. So winning the ball back high up the pitch is something that's really important. Again, winning the ball in central midfield, and then you've bypassed this midfield of Leeds United and you're able to exploit it. Again, moved on the same situation. We've got a 2v2 right here. So for me, individual battles are important, but picking up on Calvert-Lewin's positioning, you can see that he leads that line well. He's able to retrieve the ball. He's able to run in behind and hold it up. And then finally, again, just touching on that little blind spot action again, we can see here now that in behind that area through there, a little bit of a pass. We can see this runner is ahead of the Leeds United player, and you're able to exploit those areas. So those are the main areas for me that I think you can really look to try and dominate against Leeds. So like I always do, I've picked a Leeds player that I like and one that I think has a bright future, especially in football, and it is Okafor. And he's actually sort of, his numbers aren't great, but when I watch Leeds, he's always a threat. He's progressive. He's quite powerful. Does he need to add numbers to his game? Definitely. But here we can see some of his touches, 155 successful, 90 unsuccessful. But we can see that he offers the width on the left, but can come inside at the same time. We've got his little zones as well. So, you know, his main dominant zone is that area and that area through there. We can also see that his pass map, he's played 110 passes, 80 successful, 30 unsuccessful, with an accuracy of 73%. You can see that he wants the ball to go back into a central area. And here's some of his XG of 1.36, 0.17 XG per shot, and 0.5 goals per shot. So Okafor is a player that I like, just one that when I watch Leeds, I kind of look at him and go, do you know what? I like him. He's a good player. He's got something about him. So he's someone that I look at and think he's pretty decent, to be honest. Right, so shall we have a look at the lineup that I've predicted for Aston Villa? And then we'll have a little look at a tactical mashup. Right, so here's my lineup. I'm going with Martinez, Cash, Konsa, Pau, Digne, Onana, Kamara, Buendia, Watkins, Rogers, McGinn. Caveat this now that Ezri Konsa pulled out of the England squad with a precaution. Onana has pulled out of the Belgium squad with a precaution. That was for both of the last internationals. So they played one game and then felt something and then returned back to Villa. So if it's not Konsa, then I don't want to think about it. But I think it will be Konsa. I think it was a precaution. It was sort of after the game, so maybe he's woke up and feels a little bit tight somewhere. Onana, hopefully it's exactly the same, but the Onana one, you'd bring in Yuri Tielemans. So let's have a little look then at a tactical mashup in this game then of what we can. Let's put another one in the Leeds net. Right, so the big area for me is, like you've probably guessed through watching this, it's that midfield. It's having that little Villa box midfield, boxing in Longstaff and Ampadu. I think making sure that we're pushing Bogle backwards, limiting the balls into Calvert-Lewin if he's available to play. Okafor's a big threat, but Matty Cash has played really well. So I just think it's important that when Leeds play it from the back, Villa are aggressive. We're aggressive in winning all of our duels. That has to be a non-negotiable for me. And I also feel like playing out from the back, can we play through that Leeds United midfield? Just limit everything to Okafor, Aronson and Calvert-Lewin. They have scored 4 goals from set pieces. Villa have conceded a few goals this season from set pieces. So Rodon is pretty aggressive on set pieces. Bial, Calvert-Lewin, etc. So we've got to make sure that we're aggressive on those. But I just think personally, no gifts. Just go there, play our way. Know the areas that we've got to keep quiet. Everybody win the individual battles. Sounds really basic, but it's quite important against this Leeds United side. And just go 1-0 up, be quite dominant. Farke's substitutions are always a little bit slow, sometimes uninspiring. So just a real tactical job, I think, needs to be done. And I think Villa should have enough in this game, to be honest. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully you've enjoyed my tactical look at Leeds and Aston Villa. Villa Leeds fans, if you haven't enjoyed it and got this far, subscribe. We've got more Leeds content coming. We've had the match preview. We've got the opposition preview. We'll have the debrief, match reaction. So loads of content coming. So if you can help support me by subscribing, hitting the like button, commenting your thoughts, just do the standard things that you need to do, and it will make a massive difference to this channel. So cheers everyone for your support. Up the Villa.